All right, all right, all right. Are we live? I think we're live. Let's see. All right, and we are going live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yo, yo, yo. Tell me what you know. Welcome to the Sunshine Show. Today I have a very special treat for you. I have 3 amazing bass players in the house. I've been gone for a while. I took almost a year off and I am back now. This episode has been brought to you by Bass Players United. I do have an intro from Adam Phillips. He could not be here with us today, but he wanted to introduce the show like this. In the world of bass guitar, we're surrounded by incredible talent every day. Yet there are 3 amazing musicians whose influence reaches far beyond their own playing. They have explored the endless dynamics, creativity, and depth that bass guitar holds with grace, passion, and true artistry. Their music has inspired countless bass players around the world, and I'm proud to say I'm one of them. I'm forever grateful for the inspiration they have given, not only to the bass community, but to music as a whole. Sincerely, Adam, Bass Players United. Thank you so much, Adam. All right. The moment you all have been waiting for. We have the one and only, the most talented, the most amazing, the most fabulous, the most Bowies. That's right. Not 1, not 2, but 3. 3 Bowies in the house. I got Zander Zahn, John Ferrara, and Michael Manring in the house. What's up, guys? That would be your cue, Dawn, to bring them on screen.
Hello.
There we go. How's it going, guys?
Hello.
Great. Everything's great. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, absolutely. I think about 3 years ago, Michael, Zander, and myself had a really awesome conversation. And I really have to ask you, Michael, have you made it to the beach yet?
I'm not a big beach guy. I like to walk along the beach, but that's about it. I don't really hang out at the beach. Just never worked for me.
I can see you with your acoustic, like the acoustic that you used to play I Left America. I could just picture you there on the beach, though, in the sunset, playing beautiful solo bass.
I would do that. But I can't really lay on the beach and like get a suntan, though. I'm physically incapable of doing that somehow.
You need a very high SPF.
Yeah, well, that's that. I need a really high SPF.
Sometimes if you find playing music relaxing, it's hard to just lie there and do nothing. I think as well. You're sort of just this is what it is. I need to kind of make something, make a tune.
Yeah, I find the beach inspiring. I often hear music when I'm around the beach, but just kind of hanging out, I'm not good at that. I missed that day in school or whatever it was.
Awesome. So, Michael, you are out in Oakland. Zander, you are out in, remind me again.
London, yeah.
And then, John, where are you at again?
I'm in Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. So we are all over the world. This is very exciting. I'm really stoked to catch up with you guys, see what's been going on since the last time we chatted. And John, I'm so stoked that you came along today for the ride.
I'm very happy to be here with these 2 amazing humans and players.
Awesome. So for the people that may not know who you are, I want to kind of go around and you guys can each give a very brief intro. Michael, let's start with you.
Yeah, my name is Michael Manring. I've been playing bass since 1969. And I just fell in love with the instrument then and have just never looked back. I had my first professional gig when I was 12. And I love playing the bass. I love composing music. And that's what I spent my life doing.
Very nice. John?
I started playing when I was about 13. I grew up in a musical household, so my dad was always urging me to play, and I was always just being a punk kid and wanting to play video games instead. And then one day he wrote me in by teaching me Hey Joe. I love Jimi Hendrix, so I learned that. And then I realized instantly that I loved the instrument. And then because he's a professional musician, he got me gigging with him, I guess by the age 14 or so. So I was doing a lot of gigs with him. And so learning on the job, and got into all the awesome players that kind of made me play like the weirdo that I play now. And yeah, just kind of rode it on from then. I've been pretty much addicted to it ever since.
Very nice. And last but not least, Zander.
So I started playing the cello when I was 7 years old, and I heard Michael's playing in my late teens, and that did it for me. I heard him play a tune called Music for Armchair Funambulists, which was one of the pieces that he had up on his website. And I don't know if either of you have heard this piece, Sunshine and John, but it literally sounds like 20 bass players playing at once. And when I found out that it was just one person playing solo, the previous work I'd been doing on the cello, and I'd been doing like just dabbling a little bit on the bass, I sort of like, it set me off on this path where I thought I need to be able to express myself through this instrument. And I want to be able to essentially make people feel the way that, Michael made me feel. And I was listening to Victor Wooten as well, and all these great bass players who were playing solo. And I felt like this is an exciting path that, I look back at it and I think now, being drawn to solo bass, it's sort of, like there was so many other directions that you could go in with the bass and with funk and rock and so many different styles. But for some reason, it was the bass on its own that just sounded so incredibly beautiful, with those harmonics and the incredible fretless playing, and just like the wow factor of, this is a 4-stringed instrument that, normally, oftentimes in music, has a background role, that just completely captivated me. And so I don't play live like Michael and John do. I'm a YouTube artist, and I started just playing in my bedroom, and I started posting on YouTube like just a couple years after YouTube started back in 2006. And I had done some compositions, and I hadn't had an audience, and I had a job in education, but YouTube came around, and people like me who are maybe more introverted, have suddenly this avenue. And I posted a couple of videos, and some of them started to do well. And, I became a YouTube solo bassist.
That's pretty phenomenal. I know that a lot of people wish they could be a YouTube bassist. What exactly goes into the behind the scenes work of a YouTube bassist? And I also saw that you have like your plaque, right? Is that for how many subscribers do you have now?
So I have a YouTube silver play button, which is one of my crowning achievements in my online music career, which YouTube gives you if you have 100,000 subscribers. So that was really cool to get that. And my son likes that I have it because he tells his friends. So that's kind of like, that's pretty much as far as it goes in terms of like, my pride and my son telling his friends about it. But yeah, it is something that I am proud of. And I guess as far as it goes, like being a YouTube artist, it depends on, I suppose it depends on how much of your livelihood depends on it, in terms of how much time you're spending doing it. There's I think there's a few bassists out there that are able to make a living solely from posting content online, but other things go along with that in terms of, like album sales, but also Patreon is a big vehicle now for providing income for online musicians. But I think probably for many online musicians, it's a semi-professional or more of a hobby, especially nowadays with the amount of competition that there is online and how challenging it is to reach your audience online. But yeah, it just depends on to what extent you're able to, make a living from playing music. That's how much time you're able to dedicate to it.
Wow. And you're right. It seems like everybody's doing YouTube. Everybody's posting reels. Everybody's like posting content. So how do you set yourself apart from everybody else? I guess is a good question.
I guess it was probably, because I suppose I've been on YouTube since 2000. I think I said 2006 or 2008 it must have been, because I think YouTube started in 2006. So I've been on, on YouTube for a long time, for 18 years. So it's been like like there's like the curve in terms of how much you're reaching people. And I suppose, nowadays I think it's quite hard to reach people because you have the algorithm which is determining what is being shared with people, whilst there was a big period of time for most of my kind of YouTube career, if you call it, where that is driven by subscribers. So before, what YouTube used to do is if people subscribe to your channel, your videos would be shared with them. And therefore your subscriber count had a direct correlation to the amount of views that you get. The amount of views that you get has a direct correlation to how much money you're making through album sales, or through additional students and lessons and people that want to come to you, or through your Patreon sales as well, or merchandise. So views then correlates to income. And nowadays it's the subscriber count is not what drives views. It's the the mystery algorithm. So I think it's much more challenging, certainly, to build a sustainable, viable career online as well, because with the algorithm shifting, you can't just feel like, okay, I build this follower count, it's exponential, I'm set, I'm sorted. There's a great amount of uncertainty that comes to it, and I think, like, it's probably, you're in quite a precarious situation if your your rent or your mortgage is resting on the money you're making on YouTube. But that's why I think you have platforms like Patreon that provide added stability, and people that have been able to build a big Patreon base are able to then reach that audience quite directly, or people who have quite intelligently sorted out their mailing list, they're then able to continue reaching their audience directly, whilst people that like relied on the social media like are probably in a bit of a pickle now. But I think it's like, I remember thinking that the challenge with that though is, I remember thinking, oh, this could happen to YouTube, because this is what happened to MySpace. MySpace, there was artists that had a lot of momentum, were doing really well, and then MySpace just died and they lost millions of followers. But the challenge is, in terms of setting up the mailing list, is with the rate that you're potentially growing on YouTube or another platform, because the rate that it's going, potentially, like if you've done well, is going quite quickly. You're not going to be able to keep up with that with a mailing list. I think a lot of people, myself included, just felt, okay, I'm just going to go with social media until it, and see where it takes you.
That's what I have heard, that email is like gold. If you have somebody's email, that's like the way to reach them. John, let's talk about your algorithm. What's showing up when you're scrolling on the socials? Is it all bass playing? You got some?
It's probably more comedy than anything, but it's of course bass playing too. Yeah, I listen to a lot of different comedians, and whenever I don't have time to really do much other than play and teach and perform and everything, but I probably go to more comedy shows than I do music at this point. But as far as like algorithmic stuff professionally for me, a lot of things that Zander said make a lot of sense. It's really interesting seeing how it works now, when you would spend a lot of time trying to cultivate an audience, and when you're doing something kind of esoteric like what the three of us do with kind of solo bass, which is a very left of center kind of thing, you have to really like figure out how to reach people. Like how can you reach not just bass players, but bass players that would be really interested in like sculpting the instrument in this kind of different way. And for a bunch of years I spent a lot of time and energy trying to reach those people, and to a degree of success. And then everything kind of shifted very, very dramatically, and now it's I feel very fortunate that during that time I was able to cultivate a bit of an audience and a student base, and so people that would listen to the music and that I can teach as well. But man, is it confusing now. It makes no sense to me. Try different things out. Nothing makes any sense. It's always changing.
Yeah,
something will work for a second and then it just won't. You're like, all right, well, I tried to do it twice. It didn't work the second time. I guess back to the drawing board.
Yeah, take me back to the 80s. I don't know if you were born in the 80s, Xander. Maybe are you like a 90s baby?
81. I was born in 81.
Oh, I was born 81 too. Okay.
Oh,
You
no
look
way.
very good. When's your birthday?
September 22nd.
Okay. I'm June 11th.
Was that?
June 11th.
11th. Okay.
Okay, let's see. Gabriel Walker in the house. Thank you, Gabriel, for joining us. He says, "Hey, John, pleasure to meet you, dude. Huge fan. I'll send you a message on IG after this. Would love to be in touch."
Thank you, Gabriel. I look forward to reading your message.
Okay, Michael, what does it feel like to hear Xander say that you inspired him to start playing bass? And I'm sure thousands, hundreds of thousands of people out there are inspired by your bass playing. What does that feel like?
Oh, well, it's very, very humbling and a little weird. um, I'm very appreciative. It's kind of funny because the tune that Xander is talking about, I always thought was kind of a failure. It was kind of worked well as a stepping stone, but it compositionally just was not successful, I think. And so it's a little strange, but it makes me think I should practice more.
We disagree.
Okay, melody, the main melody in that, like the main theme that you come back to is like, it's next level beautiful. And then you have like in the middle section, you have like, I think you're slapping the harmonics,
Yeah.
which is just unbelievable. Like the dynamic change between that and then the main melody, and just like the pull-offs that you're doing with the surround sound, and there's like boom, coming from here, coming from there, coming from there. It's so incredibly gorgeous. It'll always be just my favorite piece of music of all time.
Wow.
Yeah, real special place in my heart, that piece of music. I wish I had a hyper bass so I could.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that was one of the first pieces I recorded when I got my special bass, which is called the Zahn Michael Manring Hyper Bass. And the pickup in it has a separate pickup actually for each string. So you can pan the strings to various places in the stereo field and process each string differently. And this was one of the first pieces I recorded with it. I had actually written the piece on my old Music Man bass and was performing it somewhat regularly. And that bass didn't have any hardware on it for changing tuning live. And so I was doing all that by turning the tuning keys. And it was a little cumbersome doing that. I thought, there's a better way to do this. And once I got the hyper bass, it was nice to be able to do that stuff a little bit more efficiently. And yeah.
Was that one of the pieces? Was that the catalyst for the idea of the hyper bass, or had you been thinking about it when performing other pieces of music or when composing as well?
I'd been thinking about these ideas for a long time. And when I started doing live retuning just with the tuning keys, I was doing it for a while, and I could see that there was a pretty hard limit of what I could accomplish with it, and it just didn't seem like that was a limit that I wanted to have to live within. It just seemed like there was a lot more that could be done, and I really liked working with these ideas, and so I was super lucky that somebody was willing to help me out and make the hyper bass that has all kinds of detuning possibilities.
And what inspired you? What inspires you back then, even today?
This is the most cliche thing to say ever, but I'm like just super inspired by life. As a young man, I read those Carlos Castaneda books about how you could have a spiritual experience on psychedelics, and I tried that and was like pretty much bored. I just find life so interesting just the way it is, just the fact that we're here, the fact that the universe is structured in this way, and there's all this stuff we can do, and we can think, and we can process ideas, and of course, the incredible mystery and magic of music is just kind of beyond belief. So I'm just really inspired by being alive and all the different things you can do with your brain and your being.
Beautiful answer. I love that. Okay. Gabriel says, "Hey, Michael, my grandpa Glenn Fukunaga met you way back. Not sure if you recognize his name. You're also a huge inspiration to me. Curious about your action height. Laugh out loud for me, 3 millimeters at the 12th fret since I play really hard."
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you. I generally, I'm not very, I just kind of set up my instruments however feels good. I never really measure anything. And it's kind of a mess. Actually, my instruments have different distances between the strings, which is not ideal. And the string height generally is pretty low. Um, I like to have the instruments pretty easy to play, and I'm looking for like a lot of resonance with the instrument, and in general, the lower action gives you that. So generally, kind of as low as I feel I can get away with, depending on the various factors that come into play with that.
I asked Michael that same question a few weeks ago.
Very nice. What's up, David Pastoris in the house?
What's up,
Like,
David?
Hey, David.
We got Eugene Bradley in the house. Hello, Eugene. You guys, you're hanging out with me, Zander, Michael, and John. Okay. If you guys have any questions, comments, suggestions, please drop them there in the comments section. I'm getting back in action. Okay. I was off for 11 months, took a little sabbatical. So getting back to it, it feels really good. So thank you guys all for being here with us. Let's see. Adam says, Zander, I have to say that Whisper in Time and Epic Love are two songs I find myself coming back to regularly. I was curious where the inspiration for those tracks come from and what the creative process behind them was like.
Oh, that's so kind. Thank you so much, Adam. By the way, you have to get on here, Adam. We were just talking. We need to get you. We need to get you on this podcast because I have loads of questions I want to ask you about BPU. No, that's very sweet. So, I'm going to sound so use Michael's word cliche, except I'm not going to say life. I'm going to be like literally. I'm just with Epic Love. That was one of the first tunes that I composed. So, I'm just trying to, and unashamedly, just trying to sound as close to Michael as possible when I'm performing these songs. So I think like around that time I was listening to Celine, which is one of Michael's regularly performed pieces, I think it's fair to say, and one that's much beloved by many. And there's incredibly beautiful harmonics in that song. And so I was just with Epic Love. It was actually my first foray into alter tuning as well. So when I put piccolo strings on my Zon VB4, I originally just had them in standard fourths, but I had them kind of in between bass and guitar tuning. So I had them B, E, A, D. And I think that for Epic Love, I just moved the E string up to F sharp, and that created then a fifth between the B and the F sharp, which just created interesting harmonic chords that I was able to perform. And I experimented with that altered tuning. I mean, it's just a small shift, but I experimented with that and just kept on playing and recording and listening and trying to find something that sounded melodic, and kind of just went from there with that. And then that was the second piece that I posted on YouTube, I think, again, back in 2008. And then people seemed to like that piece, and that really inspired me to write more and compose more. And it's still one that I enjoy playing today, though I have to say some of the chords in that piece, my hands don't work the same way as they did 18 years ago. I had some really, like, I had bar chords like on the 19th fret that I was doing, across all four strings, that when I try to play that piece now, my hand is like, stop that. You're not like 25 anymore. But yeah, Whisper in Time. So that was me trying to go back to my cello roots. And again, that was like I found a chord progression that I liked, and I remember I had a loop pedal that was, I mean, loop pedals are great for composing. I'm not sure if Michael and John use them for composing, but just being able to just experiment, for a long time, trying to find that melody that fits. And my favorite melodies are the simplest of melodies. Those are the ones that I enjoy the most. But yeah, it was just playing around with that on the electric cello. and then sort of building up the different layers using the loop pedal and going from there. So yeah, that's about it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Adam, for that question. John, tell us a little bit about your bass. Michael's talked to us about his, and Zander was just talking to us about his as well. So what's going on with your rig?
So I have a 5-string Ferrara strung E to C. So when I placed the order for it, it was about a 1.5 year wait, because Ferraras are fantastic and they're always in demand. So the wait time is a long time. And I was about a month out. And at this point, I had a good relationship with Ferrara. But I was about a month out, and it kept nagging at me that it was you have to get a high C. You have to think more in the higher range. I was getting all these ideas for compositions that were, would require to have the higher range. And I don't play any other instruments. I just play bass. So that's why I'm so into the tapping and the chordal stuff. Is it all makes sense to me on this instrument and really nowhere else. So I was thinking, all right, should I do it? Should I contact them and try to get this high C? Is this a petulant, stupid idea? You're getting this amazing bass that's coming to you. And so I contacted them. It was about a month, maybe 3 weeks before it was going to be ready. And I said, hey guys, would you mind just throwing a high C string on it instead? And they were like, yeah, okay, you sure? I mean, it's kind of like a random thing to ask out of nowhere. And I was like, yes, I'm going to go with yes. And I picked it up, and that day I had a show with my band Consider the Source. And of all shows, it was a big festival, and Oteil Burbridge was there, and he was an artist at large. And he's one of my favorite players as well. And so I picked up this bass, and I told myself, no matter how you feel about this bass when you get it, you have to play it. You just have to play it until it's feeling right. And I played it, and it was so good. It felt awesome, but I didn't know the C string at all. I hadn't even thought about it. I hadn't even thought about like, oh yeah, you're going to have to learn the notes of this and learn how to really play it. So yeah, we went up there and played, and I was hitting all kinds of wrong notes, and I'm playing with one of my heroes, and he's killing it, and I'm just doing root and fifth, just sitting back and letting him do his thing.
There are no wrong notes, right?
Yes, I needed that. But ever since then, I spent the next couple months really just getting to know the bass, and the feverish feeling of did I make the wrong choice with this went away. And it sounds dramatic, but it literally changed my life. All the ideas that I had in my head, I can actually play them, the melodic ideas I had, and I became more confident as a composer. So not only could I actually play the notes I was hearing, but it was almost like this eureka moment of like, oh wow, they were in there this whole time, and I can actually play them, and they're making sense, and it was very validating. So yeah, it's been maybe 12 years or so, I think, since I got this bass. And that's really when my like solo bass head started really like forming more ideas. It's like, I think it sounds really great. And so through this bass, I was able to start writing the solo pieces, and then taking those pieces and writing them into my bands, Consider the Source, Mono Means One, and whatever other projects I have. So yeah, this bass like changed my life. Everything changed after having it.
Very cool. I actually grew up playing with the high C as well. I grew up playing jazz, so I always had that. I actually still play with the high C too now. I have I have one 5-string that is the low, B or D? Why can't I think right now? Low B.
Yeah, low B. Yeah.
And then I have a high C. Yeah.
That's awesome. Wow. Yeah. Is it for like mostly soloing?
I grew up playing jazz, so like I would just play in like the higher range, but like now I don't use it that often. But I don't know, fun fact. Yeah, cool. Very cool. That's awesome. Okay, we have another question here. John, I was wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing the Tony Levine Beyond the Bass Clef story with us.
Oh, Adam, you know me well. So what Adam is referring to here, I'm happy you brought this up because it's a very funny story. So when I was a kid, there used to be this bass conference that would happen in New York City every year called Bass Day. And it was really cool. It's actually the first time I played a Federa or even heard of Federas was at these. And the first time I saw Victor Wooten was at one of these bass days. And I was there with my dad, and he noticed that Tony Levin was there. And I knew like King Crimson, like I recognized the album in my apartment growing up, you know, and I didn't know them super well at this point. And he said, so that's Tony Levin. You might not know like exactly who he is right now, but I'm going to buy his book for you. He had just put out a book, Beyond the Bass Clef. And he's like, I want you to go up to him and meet him, say hi to him, and just get it autographed. So I'm a nervous little kid. And so I go up to him and I'm talking to him, and he's very, very nice. And at the end of the conversation, I say, Tony, I just bought your book. Would you mind giving me an autograph? And he's like, oh, sure, of course. You know, what's your name? And I say, John. And he says, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can you say it one more time? And I'm like, John. I'm like yelling it loud. It's like a loud place, a lot of basses being played and all the stuff. So I say it a third time, John. He's just not. It's like, okay, I think I got you. All right. So he hands it over. I walk over to my dad. I'm like all excited, and we open it up together, and it says, to Ron. Thank you. Whatever, Tony Levin. And we're dying. We're laughing so hard. It's just such a funny moment. So many years later, Consider the Source. It's my main project for the last 2 decades, and we're a progressive rock trio. And we get on a Prague, I think it was a Prague festival, like a day festival out in Chicago at Reggie's Music Joint. Great venue. And Michael knows. All right, so we're playing there, and it's Stickman is headlining, Consider the Source's direct support. And I bring the book and I say, like, if it's not weird, if I get to talking to Tony again, I'm going to retell him the story. It was like, 15 years ago or something at this point. I'm sure he doesn't remember. And I'm going to tell him the story, show him the book, and have him cross it out and put John, and my dad will be so happy. So we play the show. It's a really great night. And I get to talking to Tony again after the show, and we're talking for a while. And I say, Tony, I just gotta say, when I was a kid, you were so nice, and you had a talk with me, and I gave you the book that you just put out, and I asked if you would autograph it, and you didn't hear my name right, and you put Ron instead. It's a running joke in my family. Would you do me the honor of just crossing it out and putting John? I'll show my dad. He'll crack up. He's like, oh, that's hysterical. Yeah, no problem. So he takes the book, crosses it off, hands it back to me. I'm like, thank you so much, Tony. He walks away. I open it up to Don.
No way.
20 years. So I was almost going to have him do it a third time. I opened up for him doing solo, a couple of solo shows a few weeks ago, but I couldn't. The story is good enough as it is. I'm sure he would. I'm sure he would do it again. And I'm pretty sure he just did it on purpose.
Oh my God. You can't make shit like that up, I swear.
I know. It cracks me up. Absolutely cracks me up.
Tony's either got a great sense of humor, or his bass monitor has been too loud the past few days.
He is a very funny guy. So
I have to say, like, the first time I heard John play, I had sometimes like on YouTube it goes from like video to video. So John's music came on, and I was like just thinking in my head, I was like, man, I have to get this guy's delay pedal. This is like the greatest delay pedal. I need this. This sounds so pristine. So I went check the description stuff. I didn't see it. I'm like, hold on. So watching the video, I'm like, what? How is this even possible? With just like the speed of the tapping and the drone tapping that you do, John. You're just hitting like those same notes on different strings. Just something I'd never seen before with tapping. But you didn't play piano. You just where did that sort of direction come from? Tony and the stick and that. I
mean, I can't really like that specific idea. I'm not sure, but I mean, it's I definitely was exposed to a lot of really great tapping players at a young age. Okay. Michael, of course, being one of them, with all the myriad things that he does, tapping being one of the many. Huge inspiration. Tony, of course. Even though I don't play piano, I pull inspiration from piano players probably more than any other instrument. So I've learned a lot of piano pieces. I went through like a massive Philip Glass phase. I was learning Metamorphosis and Glassworks and stuff like that. And you know, I don't know if I've gotten full through like impressionist piano piece yet, but I've learned like little bits of Chopin and little bits of Debussy and stuff. And it's amazing how it translates, and it's I love the process of figuring out. Like I go into it really bullheaded, like I'm going to play this whole thing. I'm going to get all the voices. I'm going to get the melody, the bass parts, all the inner workings. And then I just admit defeat. And I say, all right, what voices can I actually do that actually makes sense? And then I lean into just the advantages of the bass at that point. It's like the piano can do all these things, and it gets me very far in my writing. But then after a point I say, okay, well, what are the things that a piano can't do that a bass can do? And let me see how we can kind of have the different aesthetics of the instrument meet. So I think the drone tapping and some of the things that I do like that are kind of like that, like that last 20 or 30% that I can't do, that a piano player could do that I can't do. I say, oh, but I could do these kinds of things. I remember being young and learning the neck. My dad was teaching me and being so frustrated at the fact that you had a D on the 10th fret of the E string and on the 5th fret of the A string and the open D. I'm like, who made this freaking thing? And years later, it's like my favorite thing about the instrument. You have the different timbres, and you have the different, you could do these, you apply any rhythm to those notes and you throw a root underneath it. And it just sounds like, you're like, 3 or 4 different people playing at the same time, but it's really not very complicated. It sounds like it is, but like when I teach it to my students, they're always very excited at how easy it actually is. Once you kind of, if you know the neck at least enough, you can access those notes relatively easily and start doing stuff like that.
Do you use like a mute? Because from the videos, I didn't see one, but I'm not sure if I missed it.
In my very, very early days doing solo stuff, I did, but I don't now. I think I lose a little bit. It could just be in my head, but I think I lose a little bit with the fret wraps dynamically, and I also do a lot of stuff with harmonics and open strings, and I have no short-term memory, so I'll forget to take the fret wrap off. So what I do is I have a right hand muting thing where I kind of press down on my low E string. The second I'm done tapping on it, I'll press down on it to mute it, and my left hand I kind of do like almost like a loose capo. So whatever note if I'm tapping the A string, I'll tap it, and then the rest of my finger is just muting everything else on top of it, and then my right hand is doing that other thing. So I have most of my bases covered, and then past that, I just let there be open strings, and I just deal with it.
Was that a pun? Most of my bases covered, or I wasn't quite sure.
I'm ashamed that it wasn't. That was a great opportunity. But good catch.
Did everybody get that? Okay, let's see. Michael, I was wondering if you could share a little bit about your time with Jaco Pastorius. What stands out most in your memory about him, and what were some of the biggest lessons he taught you, both musically and personally?
Yeah, Jaco was an interesting guy. He was pretty complex. One of the things I often say is that anything you could say about him, you could say the opposite, and both would be true. He suffered from bipolar disorder, and that was part of it, but he was just sort of a complex person. He could be pretty darn unpleasant, but my time with him was wonderful. He was always super sweet, super kind to me, I think because he knew that he was my idol, and I was just terrified every time I was with him. And so he was super supportive, and we'd play something together, and he'd slap me on the back and say, "Man, you're the baddest whatever in the world," which was not true, but he was just being very kind. One of the things that was hard to explain about him is his dream at that point was to start a bass school. He wanted to start a bass school for electric bass and really take the instrument seriously. But he had no idea for curriculum or organization or anything. And in lessons, he expected the student to lead everything, which was no problem for me because I had about a billion questions. But for some students, they found that super frustrating because he would just kind of stare at them and say, "Okay, what are we doing?" But he was very serious about the bass, and that was kind of his dream. In spite of the fact that I'm not sure he had all the tools to be able to put that together. By the time I sat down with him, I already kind of understood a lot about his music. So in spending time with him personally, a lot of it was just like little nuts and bolts things, like a lot about fingering and phrasing that I wanted to understand. But mostly the most important lesson I got from the experience was just understanding who he was and how that related to the music he made. That was a real big puzzle, and it was a tough puzzle to solve because he was a complex person. And I have to say, it was pretty upsetting to see him sometimes at his worst and try to square that with this beautiful music that he was able to make at times. So yeah, just spending time alone with him, that was the best lesson I got, just to understand the connection between his being and the music he was making.
How'd you get hooked up with that gig?
As a young man, I moved to New York because that's what you did. And I was a starving artist in New York because that was the thing to do. And he was living there most of the time and was playing at a lot of tiny little places. And whenever I could afford it, I would go see him play. And sometimes there was only like 5 of us in the audience. And so I got up the nerve and pestered him with questions whenever I thought I could get away with it. And at that time, as I said, he wanted to teach. He had trouble being coherent enough to teach regularly. But he said, "Yeah, why don't you just come by for official lessons?" So I did.
That is really cool. If you guys could take lessons with any bass player in the world besides anybody on this panel, okay, who would it be? Michael, we'll start with you.
Probably Jules Zafimari.
John?
That's a good question. As for my answer before, I think more about piano players than I do bass players these days. I don't know what's wrong with me. There's a bassist that I'm from Queens. He lives in Queens too. Panagiotis Andreou.
Okay.
He's an absolute monster, beautiful bassist. I took a lesson with him when I was living there, and I always wanted to do a few more with him. Yeah, absolute, and a really kind guy, and does a lot of like Latin kind of stuff, but also a lot of like Eastern European flavored stuff, and a lot of like South Indian, like conical voice percussion, which I'm very much into. So yeah, he's just like a deep well of awesomeness. So
Nice.
probably him. Yeah.
And Zander?
It would probably be Victor Wooten, just because he's a deep well of awesomeness as well. Just to use John's phrase, which I love. I'm going to steal that one now. Yeah, I mean, obviously everything that he's done with the instrument technically is incredible. So I think his outlook on music as well is also very interesting. He has some, I think, really unique, interesting viewpoints on music education. So I think it would be a fun chat to have with him as well.
Very cool. Okay. Now, I have to ask this question. In a world of AI, right? I feel like technology is moving so fast and AI is getting like more and more intense and I get, for lack of a better word, intelligent. And I feel like you go on YouTube and there's so many like AI slop videos, like, and some of them look real, right? It's like it's getting to a point where it's like kind of hard to like differentiate what is a real video and what is like AI. Michael, let's start with you. What do you feel about AI and what it's kind of doing to the music world?
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed that we have this, by pretty much all accounts, maybe even the most incredible technology on earth. I'm a little disappointed by what we've kind of chosen to do with it. I mean, one of the early AIs was actually an AI bass player, which I find kind of sad. But personally, I would love to be able to use the technology myself and work with it as an artist. I think it's amazing what can be done. And so on a personal level, yeah, I really am hoping to learn more about it and try to find ways to hack it to do kinds of things to make the kinds of sounds I want to make.
Okay, very cool. Xander?
Yeah, I was thinking like what's that, there was a film about Bob Dylan that came out recently that starred Timothy Chalamet. I don't know if anyone's seen it
I
on
know
here.
what you mean. I don't remember the name. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean the kind of the climax of the film was around when he went electric at an acoustic festival. He used an electric guitar instead of an acoustic guitar, which was not a good thing for the folk audience that was watching at the time. But I suppose, and I don't know if this is the right analogy or right way to think of it, because of course of all the other elements that AI bring to the table. But I suppose when you look across music, you know, you've had these transitions towards technology all along the way, really. I mean, I suppose even from double bass to electric bass, you know, potentially, like, you know, there's an interview and people are saying, well, what do you think of this new electric bass coming around, as you asked about AI? Or, like, yeah, amplified instruments and, MIDI technology. I mean, there's been a range of technological advancements, and I suppose there always will be as we continue to move forward. Um, so I think, just coming back to, yeah, what Michael was saying, I think that, we have to be adapting as musicians and thinking about how we can use this technology, because it's here to stay. One of the things that I suppose I do worry about is I worry about um, the discipline that it takes to learn an instrument. Is this going to become lost? Because it's so much easier to make music now without being trained as a musician. I was classically trained on the cello, and it's hard to learn how to play a no fret bowed instrument. And our future generations going to be less wanting to go through the rigor of learning how to play an instrument, which takes hours and hours for many, many years, obviously, as we know, to be able to play properly. And with technology, are there going to be more attempts at shortcuts? And is that sort of a discipline going to be lost? That's something that I'm concerned about. I think I would hope that, like, people will always want to, I mean, like, coming back to I think the start of this podcast, you were talking about your empathy, Sunshine, and what an empathetic person you are. And I hope that people will always want to feel that connection with another human in terms of the music that they're making. But I wonder about that, though, because if you're listening to something and it's causing an emotional response, that's making you feel a certain way, will it matter to people if it's created by a human or not, if it's still creating that same emotion? I don't know what the answer to that question is, but I think those are some of the concerns I have moving forward.
Absolutely. And John?
Yeah. I pretty much, I think Xander took a lot of what I was going to say. I agree completely, on all your points. I don't think it's the technology itself that's the issue. I think it's great, and like anytime there's an advancement, it's a matter, it's up to us to use it properly.
Sure.
And so for me, it's the kind of thing where if you are a musician and you have the bug, right, and you want to play, and you go through a lifetime of sculpting your sound and learning the instrument, having all the moments of defeat. Am I ever going to get this technique down? And then you rise above it and you figure it out over and over and over again, and you earn that ability on your instrument. What that does to you on a personal level is, for me, unmatched. I love music so much. I love the process. I love practicing so much, and I've learned the value in doing it through just a lifetime of doing it and having those ups and downs and everything. So I feel like it helped me build character. So subjectively, that's something I feel like, I think I'm afraid a generation might, on the whole, lose that, because you can just get it to sound like however you want, whenever you want it. And so there's a part of that's part of what really kind of frightens me about it, and another thing is that I think that, I don't know, I think there's something to the way it's being kind of pushed on social media as being like, I don't know, it's ever present. It's like everywhere. So I think a lot of people are just sort of saying, we shouldn't be using it at all in any way whatsoever, because it's all just kind of like you said, slop. And I think there could be a way to use it properly. I'm not really sure what that is yet. I know there's been like a lot of people not loving like Suno. I'm not even 100% sure what Suno is or what it does, but I know that I guess I have seen some people put out some pieces of music that are just like, hey, I did this little thing and then it just generated this whole whatever. And so I am very much afraid of people just doing that and thinking that that's what the creative process is. And it's like, it's tough because, if I'm using Logic and I'll use like the different reverbs they have in there, the different effects they have in there, and it's, really cool. And sometimes I feel almost kind of guilty. Like, I didn't create that reverb. It sounds really cool and lush. Right. But I think what it really comes down to is intention. Like, if you have an idea of like what something's supposed to sound like, and that it can get you there, but you're still like playing your instrument, you're still sculpting your craft, then some of it might be okay. I think a gratuitous use of it is probably not. And I think that's what I'm afraid of ultimately.
Sure. Yeah. Like, there are some creators, or, we can't call them musicians, but like they're like millionaires, dropping songs on Spotify or whatever, and people don't even know it's AI until like months later. So that's kind of crazy to me. And I do feel like, human, it's a discipline, it is an art. And I don't want that to become like the lost art, once AI takes over, which I mean, it kind of already is. So it's true.
Yeah.
It can go either way, I mean,
I
know
think
it's going, but.
And I think the part of it that's like the reason we connect to any art at all is that, at least for me, I should say, is that a human created it. So like I remember one of my favorite musical experiences I ever had was just at like a house concert, and this young woman was playing a ukulele and trying to remember the lyrics to one of her songs, and she was like making mistakes and like kind of laughing throughout the whole thing. And to this day, I still remember it as being just one of the most like emotionally potent, beautiful musical moments. And for me, that has so much more value than a very polished AI cultivated song. If a human wasn't behind it, I don't know how to, I don't even know what to make of it, so.
All right. Zach Austin, I see AI as more of an amplification of what was already there for the individual. If you already achieved a level of mastery over something, AI can be an absolutely incredible collaborative assistant. The issue is a lot of people are using it as a means to lie to people or fake it till you make it. It's a laziness, dishonesty, and entitlement problem, not an AI problem.
Right.
Jamie says, I completely disagree. AI is going to kill any kid's passion to actually learn an instrument. All right,
I
I think
may,
it's about the person too, you know?
if I
What was
may,
that?
I actually have a small hope that that AI music specifically will help redirect us. If we think about the history of music, our perception of how music functions in society is really quite strange. The way we think about music in the 21st century, it's music we mostly perceive as commercial music, as pop music, has kind of taken over how we think about music. And that's really, at most 100 years old, that way of thinking about music. Music for the 40,000 years of human history before that was something quite different. Some people like to say that pop music is a form of folk music. I would disagree. Folk music is regional, highly regional. It's highly participatory. Pop music isn't really those things. It's really its own thing. It's been fantastically successful, which I think is a testament to the incredible power of music, and it's thrilling to see that how much money people can make through music. But it is a bit of a detour about how music has always existed in the human consciousness and the function that music plays in our lives. So if AI music really takes over pop music and no one can compete on that level, I actually have a small hope that we'll start thinking about music in ways that are actually older than what we're used to. That music will become more something personal, something spiritual, um, and and we'll kind of reconnect with music on a deeper level. That's a small hope I have about this process.
That's a lovely answer. Jamie also says, Michael is so great on bass. He's like a human AI bass player.
I I have to I have to disagree with the premise on both the A and the I part of it.
All right.
I think it makes- Go
Michael,
ahead.
I was wondering if you could share a bit about your time performing with Steve Morse, what that experience was like musically for you, and what you took away from working with him. Do you still keep in touch with him today?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I haven't talked to Steve in a while, but such a sweet man, such a wonderful, humble man. I'm always stricken with how when I meet these amazing musicians, often they don't think they're amazing. And Steve is certainly in that category. Just wonderfully humble, brilliant guy. I got to open for his band as a solo bassist on several occasions, and just just love spending time with him and hearing his music. And just a great human being.
Do you still keep in touch with him?
I haven't talked to him in a while. I should really try to track him down and say hello and see how he's doing. He's been playing in Deep Purple for quite a while, and I think he's been enjoying that.
Nice. So, as solo musicians, do you get out on the road often? I mean, I guess, John, you do have your few projects, but Xander and Michael, you both are just solo musicians, right?
I think let's I need to distance myself from Michael's extensive touring that he's done for decades, because and also in terms of all the amazing groups that Michael's played with as well. I just play in my bedroom and record it and put it on the internet. That's pretty much all I do. I did have a foray into live playing at one point. And then what I just found is sort of in terms of like the value that I got from playing online was just greater. But yeah, Michael's had a very extensive touring and playing around the world history, haven't you, Michael?
It's been pretty good actually for a guy that not only has trouble getting to the beach but has trouble leaving the house at all. Managed to be all over the world and play with thousands and thousands of different musicians and had experiences that if I told you, I'm sure you wouldn't believe me. Um, but yeah, no, the solo part of what I do is actually kind of been a small part of it. Mostly I've just been a working bassist all these years. It is a little tougher now to play live. When I was younger, most of my life that I've made the bulk of my income from playing live. But it's gotten tougher now, especially with gas prices going up. It's a little tougher to travel around and make any profit. Um, but I've certainly enjoyed it. My favorite part of music is just making music on my own, composing, practicing, and performing is really interesting, but also nerve wracking. So I certainly appreciate it.
Do you
And
really get nervous or?
I do. I get nervous sometimes. I'm not sure. I never quite know when I'm going to get nervous, but sometimes I do. Yeah.
Wow, who knew?
Can I jump in with a question super quickly for Michael? So, Small Moments, Soliloquy, your last two albums. Do you have plans for a third solo album? Not a third solo album. Just continuation of the solo bass solely, because of course those two are just solo bass.
Yeah, I was thinking that I didn't really need to make another album of just solo pieces, but I was talking to my friend. I mentioned that to my friend Alex the other day, and he was appalled. And so I think maybe I should try to make another album of solo pieces. I'm not sure that I want to do more albums, in fact. I'm still trying to think about that. There's a lot of music I want to make. And in fact, I would really love to write 100 pieces for solo bass. It does take a while for an instrument to be kind of accepted. And if you can kind of get over that 100-piece threshold, if there's 100 pieces for an instrument to play, just historically speaking, that's been an important threshold to cross. And so that would be nice to try to get past that
How
line.
many pieces have you composed so far?
I don't know. I suppose I'm maybe halfway there, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I can't believe was Soliloquy 2004.
That sounds right. Maybe 2005 or 6 even. Yeah.
I listened to that today actually, like just ahead of this interview, and just that the way that album starts with Helios. I mean, it sounds like I think that's going to be just like a timeless bass album.
Oh, thank
That
you.
growl that you got from that low, is that an F that you have it tuned to for
Yeah,
Helios?
that piece starts with all the strings tuned to F.
All the strings are tuned to F. That's amazing.
Thanks.
Yeah, when Emily and I were in Costa Rica earlier this year, we put that on several times. Listening to it in the jungle was pretty magical.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that, guys. That's very kind. Thank you.
That's always, I play that piece to people who don't know about solo bass. I was like, just listen to
You can
Helios.
do this.
Check this out.
All right, Zander, can you tell us a little bit about the cover you did, All of Me by John Legend?
Oh, thank you, Adam. That's really kind of you. So my son is learning to play the piano. My wife is a music teacher and a piano teacher as well. So it's very convenient for him to learn the piano, because he can just learn through her and practice with her. So he's just completed his grade 4 in England. So he's been playing for 4 years, and he's reached a point in his short musical journey where, like, he's able to play pieces of music, and they sound like, really good and beautiful. I'm a proud dad, so apologies if it gets a little bit cringe, but real proud dad moment for me. He has a beautiful arrangement of All of Me by John Legend that he's been playing, and he performed it in his school assembly when all the parents were walking in, and then again when the parents were leaving as well, and then mid assembly he played Star Wars also, and that was really like a lovely moment for us as parents. And I was thinking that I want to perform something and dedicate it to him. So I basically just took his arrangement that he's playing, and I kind of changed it around a little bit and came up with a solo bass version. And then at the end of the video, I have a clip of him playing a little bit as well, and I just dedicated it to him. And I was actually thinking that just kind of along the lines of what we're saying, Michael's talking about writing 100 solo bass pieces. I'm not sure how many more solo bass full videos that I'm going to be doing in future. I think for my future content, I'm probably going to move to short form content, just because I think that's in terms of, adapting to social media. That's where a lot of, that's a direction that I feel I'm interested in taking when it comes to solo bass, and it's a little bit easier to produce content that way as well, because it's much shorter, so it takes less time to do it. So I was thinking, I'm not sure how many more full videos I'm going to do. So if this is one of my last ones, dedicating it to my son would be something nice to do. But I am going to be doing an arrangement with Charles Bear too. That's going to come out later in the year. We're looking at like a Hans Zimmer arrangement. Hans Zimmer's my favorite film composer, and Charles, of course, is an amazing bass player. Perhaps the only one that could rival John with tapping. I want to see a tap off between Charles and John. And
I'd be honored. He's a beast. He's amazing.
And Michael did. I know, Michael, you hung out with Charles a little while ago, and you two both did an arrangement together for YouTube and performed live together. Is that right?
Yeah, Charles used to come to the workshops that I would teach at in New Hampshire when he was just a kid studying at Berkeley, and it was clear that he was going to move on to bigger things. So I've known him for quite a while.
John, how much of your day goes into thinking about content, recording content for social media?
It's a good question. There's time frames where I'll do like batch content. Like I'll just create a bunch of stuff and do it in one sitting, because my days are pretty hectic. I teach lessons pretty much from 10 or 11 till 9 o'clock at night, 3 days a week, like more or less back to back. So the time when I used to just create a video every morning, it just that doesn't make sense for me anymore. So I've been experimenting with just creating a bunch of stuff at once, and that certainly flows better. The problem is every week what makes sense to post changes. So if I recorded a bunch of stuff, 3 weeks ago, that stuff might be obsolete as far as the whatever is making sense algorithmically during that time. So these days I'm just experimenting. I'm trying different things out, some of the different things that I do, and seeing what works. I'm on a little bit of a exploratory excuse me, sorry, getting over a cold. Exploratory kind of time frame with it all. But yeah, doing at least a few of them at a time has worked pretty well for me. And what I try to do is I try to think about riffs that I've written recently that are at the forefront of my mind that I think would be cool to show without giving away the entire song that they might be a part of. And trying to think in terms of what might be educational. Like if someone was interested in two-handed tapping, can I deliver this message in 30 or 90 seconds? I'm so sorry. I'm getting over maybe COVID. I had it for 5 days. Yeah.
No.
Tail end of it. Yeah. It sure felt like COVID. I don't know if it was it, but yeah. And sometimes I'll do funny videos of me, pretending to talk smack about 6-string players or something, little things that are just funny to do, but it's interesting trying to find ways to just engage the bass world and just the larger music world in a way that's interesting, lighthearted, and also be able to show everyone this is who I am, this is my music, and one of the funny things about social media is they might know you as a content creator and not necessarily know that you are a touring musician or a recording artist or anything like that. I've always very much admired Zander for obviously his incredible talent, but also just the fact that he was so successful on YouTube. It's really remarkable. And I think you might have been the first person I saw that did something very on that level successful with solo bass. And it checked all the boxes. It looked great, it sounded great, the arrangements were brilliant, and every single time, which is really, really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so it's interesting. I've been very lucky, like doing Consider the Source for all the years, and like traveling and having a level of at least cult success with that project. But how it translates on social media has always been like sometimes really good, sometimes really makes sense, sometimes not so good. But yeah, anyway, trying the batch content right now to try to make it all work.
No, great answer. Thank you for that. Adam is asking, John, my friend Stephen Lewis was actually the first person to tell me about you. He was playing a festival and told me about his bass player standing in the crowd with his bass on, watching the band while warming up and playing along. We both thought that was pretty rad. It made me curious. What does your warm-up routine usually look like before a show? Also, you have the 10-year anniversary release coming up with Consider the Source. What has it been like revisiting that era of the band?
So yeah, that what Steven saw and is talking about is me being very neurotic, and I especially then I would practice for maybe 2.5 hours before I would perform ever. So I would get to a venue, load in, sound check, and I would just have my bass on me until I hit the stage.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And if we were opening, I would still be practicing at the merch table afterwards or in the green room. I used to be very, very strict with my practice routine. And these days, due to a couple of physical, like pinched nerve issues, and also just sheer volume of my teaching and all the other tentacles I have in my musical life, I don't practice quite as much. I do practice a lot, but not quite as much. I'm much more calculated and have kind of in a cool way trimmed the fat off of how I approach practicing and warming up. It's funny how like physical injuries in a way can kind of be a blessing, like a silver lining, But anyway, I warm up very, very slowly. I was telling a student this morning who was, talking about, their practice routine. I said, this morning, the first thing I did is I put my metronome at 50 BPM and I played a chromatic scale in quarter notes. And I did that until my fingers felt, like they were woken up. And then I started getting into like the actual exercises that I like to do. And my exercises are very simple to start. They're just running through my modes, my major scale, my minor scale. I'll do it finger style. I'll do a tapping version of them. And then I kind of just start focusing on what's on my plate. If I'm working on a solo piece or if I have a gig coming up, what are the songs I haven't done in a while? What parts of the songs give me the most, are the most challenging when I play? When I did a solo night with Michael maybe a couple months ago in Chicago, and I had 5 songs to play, and each one of them had a couple of beast moments where I was like, I could train wreck at any moment. So I was part of my warm up for the month leading up to that was going right to what I call the Achilles heel moments of the songs and just one by one doing them and then doing full run throughs. So yeah.
Very nice. And you have the 10-year anniversary release coming out with Consider the Source. What has it been like revisiting that era of the band?
Man, what's funny? So we've been a band for like 20 years. And yeah, the 10-year release, I think that was for an album of ours called World War Trio, which was a massive like 3-part album. It was 3 CDs, it's 4 vinyls. So it's a massive body of work of songs that are like, ranging from 7 to 15 minutes long. One of the pieces is 26 minutes long with 6 different movements to it.
Wow.
And so yeah, it's funny. I can't say that we really even revisit it. We always play these songs, so throughout the years we kind of go in a rotation where we'll always play this, not obviously all the songs, but there's many songs on that album that we've been playing ever since we released it. There's a few that we haven't in a while. But from years of touring, it kind of doesn't take me too much to like get them back under my fingers. And like for the nostalgia part of it, like they're all still pretty fresh in my head because at least, like the way operate in that project is I'll write half of the material and our guitarist Gabriel writes the other half of the material. We all write them together. Don't get me wrong. I don't mean to take all the credit at all. But as far as like the general structures of the songs, the melodies and the skeletal structure. So I kind of live those songs always anyway. So, revisiting is kind of doesn't really happen in that same way. They're kind of always with me, But yeah, we're very proud of the album, and seeing it in a new printed vinyl form is very cool. And for our fans that really took to that album, it's cool, like hearing their stories of like when they saw us on the tour that we did playing the stuff. It's very meaningful and very, very cool in that regard.
Awesome. And so are you touring currently, or?
So these days I don't like tour. Like I'm home every Monday through Wednesday at least, but I still play a lot. Most weekends I have at least one show, up to 3 shows, occasionally 4. But yeah, for years we would do like 150, 200 shows a year. And, in my early 20s, that was awesome. And now the thought that John Ferrara being did that is like laughable. That will never happen again. I'm very much a homebody. I love being home and being more like cherry picking the shows that I do. I have a different outlook on all of it now. I love being home. I love just being with my girlfriend, being able to see my family more. When you're traveling and touring all the time, you miss birthdays, you miss weddings, you miss all kinds of stuff. And I'm very proud of all the work that I've done, but now I just kind of want to have some semblance of a normal human life.
Yeah, I was thinking earlier, I was like, man, I know there was like a pre-COVID world and a post-COVID world. And like even with Zander and Michael, we had interviewed like 3 years ago. It feels like such a long time ago, but it was only 3 years ago. But it's just crazy like how time is like shifting. I feel like time is just like it's passing by so fast, but like
yeah,
I don't know. I can't wrap my head around it, but I was like, man, only 3 years ago, like it felt like it was like, I don't know.
I think as you get older, a year becomes a smaller percentage of your life, right? So like when you're 2, a year is 50% of your life. When you're 10, it's 10%. But as you get older, it becomes less and less sort of like, big compared to all the other years you've been alive.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. All right. Let's see. Sunshine, so glad you're back. The last thing I wanted to say is that I've had the opportunity to meet many musicians over the years, and one experience that has always stayed with me was spending over an hour talking with Victor Wooten and his brothers. There's something truly humbling about being around musicians of that caliber and hearing the passion they have for music firsthand. Listening to all your music and hearing you play has given me that same sense of admiration and appreciation.
That's very kind. Thank you.
We love you, Adam. Thank you so much for having me back. I'm so excited to be back on the Sunshine Show here with Michael Manring, Zander and John Ferrara. Okay, and we have Adam. We're trying to get Adam to come on here one day. So hopefully we'll rewind and repeat soon and have Adam back on the show, or have him on the show for the first time ever. Adam is the founder of Bass Players United, the place for bass. Make sure to go and join Bass Players United. Follow Michael, Zander, John on all their socials. We're going to wrap this up soon. Do you guys have any last things you want to talk about before we get going?
I have a question for Zander and for Michael. Michael, it's an odd question, but before, when you said that you thought that the song, that which to me and Zander is just such a like beautiful piece, was a failure, I'm curious what that means to you, like why you consider it that, because it's so funny, because subjectively, like for us, it's like such a beautiful work. Like what's the criteria for that for you?
Yeah, as a composer, I always have something I'm trying to accomplish with a piece that I'm composing. And some pieces manage to get the job done and some don't. And that's okay. Sometimes the ones that don't are have a kind of charm, I think, at least for me, anyway. And yeah, that one I was reaching for something that I didn't quite find. Um, as I think both of you have mentioned, there are certain things that you try to do on the instrument, and it ends up being, yeah, that doesn't really work that well. And sometimes you don't know that for a couple of years, or at least until after the composition is done. And so that one was a good stepping stone for me. It was a good transition to other things. But I think overall, as a composition, it doesn't really hold up that well.
Interesting. And Zander, how could we get you over to the States for a solo bass night?
Oh man. Well, my mom would love for me to come back to California. I haven't been back to California since pre-COVID. So the last time I went was Easter 2016. Then my son was born in 2017. And then we had, so I didn't want to travel after I had my son for the first couple of years. And then there was COVID, and I had my twins. My twins were born in the middle of COVID. And so now it's just kind of similar to what you guys were saying about, traveling. And John, you mentioned being a homebody, and it's a little bit hard for me to sort of fly and sort of travel with my family here. But I think it's important that my kids see California and come out and see where I grew up. And it would be a real honor to play with both of you at some point. That would be amazing. I mean, Bass Day '98 will always hold a special place in my heart. That was an amazing video that really got me going. You weren't at that one, were you?
I was there, I think maybe like a year or two later. I wasn't at that very one, but yeah, I was at like the next 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah. Oh, incredible. No, yeah. I mean, that would be a real honor for me. So I would love that.
Awesome.
That would be lovely. if you could manage it, we would love that.
You got to make it happen. All right, Michael, go ahead.
And you too, Sunshine. Can you play with us? You have any solo pieces?
I'll be there.
That'd be awesome.
With the high C.
With the high C.
That's right. You're ready to go.
Oh, yeah. Zander, do you have any last questions, comments you want to?
Yeah, I mean, like John, what you're doing, I think, is so incredible with the tapping and just the polyphony and the complexity of your arrangements as well, and like your personality on the internet. So cool to see. I know you're super busy with teaching, but do you plan on continuing to pursue solo bass and write solo bass compositions and continue moving in that direction?
I've got like another 2 albums in the holster right now. I just don't know. I'm so bad with releasing stuff. Like I'm really terrible at planning it and promoting it and all of those things. But I have I'm doing a cover album I'm working on now, and I'm about 5 songs out of the 8 that I want to do recorded.
Wow.
And I have another one that I've been like on and off. Like the scaffolding is complete, but it's essentially like a fake string quartet. So it's like the main tapping part is like the piano, and then I'll do like volume swells and I was doing a little like eboing, and then I saw Michael play live, and I'm not going to do that. I'm out of my element.
Especially on a fretted bass. Whew, that's tricky with ebo.
Yeah, it's cool, but not as practical. But anyway, yeah, I have several projects kind of in the works, and yes, in the near future, hopefully, I'll have that released. Maybe in the next year or so, something like that.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what you do next. It's really exciting, and it's such a cool idea about the fake string quartet.
I'm such a nerd about it, but I listen to it and I'm like, I think this genuinely sounds cool. I don't know that anyone else will, but I really think it's cool.
No, I will. Yeah. And then just to Michael, just to say again, like, I hope you know just how much you mean to me and how important your music has been to my not just my musical journey, but my life as well, and the direction that I've gone in my life. And just I'm so appreciative of all the incredible music that you've made and all the boundaries that you broke and just what you continue to do with the instrument. So thank you, Michael.
Oh, thank you guys. I so appreciate that. Super kind. I just so enjoy hearing both of you do the amazing things that you're doing. and I hope you both continue to. I hope both of you will write way more than 100 solo bass pieces because what you're doing is so awesome and beautiful. And I think it's something that it's a cliche, but I think it's something the world actually needs.
The world always needs more bass.
And just thank you, Sunshine, as well, for having me again, and to Adam, if you're out there listening, just for BPU. I think it's the bass community is a special one, and I love the BPU community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very
Thank
much,
you so much.
Very much so.
Yes, we definitely have to do this again. We won't wait 3 years, okay, for the next reunion. We got to do it more often. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out. Let's do it again really soon. And yeah, I guess we'll get going on 3. Let's say bye. 1, 2, 3.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys.